This will be a comparison between the Browning Buckmark target and the Smith & Wesson Model 22A. Both of them are geared towards target or plinking shooting. Both of them are chambered in 22 LR. They both have adjustable rear sights for elevation and windage. And both are relatively the same in size. The cost comparison, the Browning Buckmark is more expensive than the Smith & Wesson Model 22A. One of the big differences between the two of them is the type of magazine release there is, and you can see on the Browning Buckmark right here, it is a standard 1911 style where you simply push in and the magazine releases. On the Smith & Wesson Model 22A, the mag release is found on the front of the grip. For those of you not used to that, it's not going to be as intuitive for you to use it as it is for anyone that's used to a 1911 style or any of the other style of pistols that have the magazine release right by the trigger, which is a lot more common than on the front of the grip. Let's see how much both of these 22 pistols weigh. Going to do this in grams. The Smith & Wesson Model 22A weighs sometimes I find that how you place them is a big influence on the weight. 883 grams. The Browning Buckmark, 1,252, around 1,250 grams. It's a noticeable weight difference between the two. One of the main contributing factors is that the barrel on the Browning is completely steel, whereas the barrel on the Smith & Wesson Model 22A is actually an aluminum barrel with a steel liner. So that definitely contributes to some of the weight differences. All the controls are fairly intuitive. The magazine release, of course, you can just simply pull back the slide and release it. The safety catch, and as you can see, it's the same on the Browning Buckmark. One of the things I will note is, in my bad lighting here, which I realize I have, is how you grip the slide on the Browning Buckmark versus the Smith & Wesson Model 22A. So, the controls on the Browning Buckmark are a little bit larger, and I just find they feel a little bit more solid. With regards to the slide, I find it easier to work the action on the Browning Buckmark than I do on the Smith & Wesson Model 22A. The Smith & Wesson Model 22A does have a rail system on the top to mount any optics that you want, whereas with the Browning Buckmark you would have to change the entire top rail portion. The takedown, there's a takedown screw on the front of the Browning Buckmark. You unscrew that to remove the barrel from the action. Whereas on the Smith & Wesson Model 22A, you simply push down the plunger to remove the barrel from the action. The Smith & Wesson Model 22A is one of the easier 22 pistols to disassemble. I previously did a video on a Ruger Mark II. The Ruger Mark IIs are notoriously a little bit more difficult to disassemble, and especially to reassemble. You've got to get it perfect and hold the pistol at the right angle. I since sold the Ruger Mark II because I wanted to try a Browning Buckmark. Next, we're going to take these to the range, shoot them, and see what the results are. After a day at the range, Shooting the Browning Buckmark and the Smith & Wesson 22A, here's the results we got. I shot 3 different types of ammo. CCI green tag, the 3.42 inch group with the Browning Buckmark, 2.36 with the Smith & Wesson 22A. Next up, the 22, the CCI standard velocity target, 2.10 with the Buckmark, 2.48 with the Smith & Wesson. The last grouping I did is an experiment using CCI quiet. This generally doesn't cycle any of my pistols, and such was the case with these two. The Browning, I did a 3.07, and the Smith & Wesson 22A, a 2.20. None of these would cycle the action completely. I had to cock the pistol each time. The overall average for my 3 groupings for the Browning was 2.86 inches and 2.44 for the Smith & Wesson Model 22A. So first, the Browning Buckmark. And the reset. It's already there, you can barely feel it. Gauge again. Move my thumb out of the way. Right there. Now the 22A. You can definitely feel it on the 22A more than you can on the Browning. You definitely feel the reset. Again, you can actually hear it too. Let's do a quick back-to-back on them, and I'll tell you which one I think feels lighter. First, the 22A. Now the Buckmark. Helps if you put a magazine. I have a preference of the Smith & Wesson 22A. If I was to recommend one of these, based on the cost, it would definitely be the Smith & Wesson 22A, but I feel both of these are good 22 caliber pistols. And if you're considering either of them, they're both a good buy. I just think that the Smith is a good value for $1. And I've put a lot of rounds through it already, and the only stoppages I've had are when I'm trying to fire subsonic ammunition, like the 22 quiet. And that didn't function in my Ruger Mark II, it didn't function in the Buckmark, and it doesn't function in the 22A. It fires, but it does not cycle the action. Hope this review has been helpful for you. If you're deciding between these two pistols, I have another review on the Smith & Wesson 22A versus the Ruger Mark II. So basically all 3 can be compared to each other.